You might think that having a personal army of 340,000 troops is enough for a person to feel secure. But for Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, that's just the icing on the cake. So let's see how the president of the biggest country in the world spends more than $2.7 billion on his own personal protection. Putin's private army. Being Vladimir Putin right now is not the safest job in the world. It never was, but since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Russian president has become one of the most wanted people on the planet. However, as a former KGB agent, getting to Putin will never be easy, especially with his highly trained and even better equipped personal protection detail. This uneasy task has been delegated to the Federal Protective Service, better known as the FSO. As you might have guessed, the roots of this agency are deep in the KGB. Their power has grown immensely since the agency was formed, as they took many other government agencies under their wing and are well known for distributing the Russian budget as they please. The head of the FSO is a lovable psychopath named Viktor Zolotov. In 2019, this outstanding human being was sanctioned due to multiple serious human rights violations in Russia. Zolotov has not earned a billionaire status despite his close relations with Vladimir Putin, at least not on paper. In fact, the FSO leader is worth approximately $40 million, as most of his assets are in real estate. The FSO, as one can easily guess, is not too frivolous in disclosing its budget and spending. However, some sources claim that the FSO has several billion rubles worth of annual budget and has around 50,000 personnel. However, that's not the only agency tasked with Putin's security. In fact, Putin can rely on more than 340,000 soldiers to do his dirty work. As you can imagine, these guys are not in Ukraine, but rather are protecting the king himself at home. The National Guard was formed in 2016 by President Putin himself. This unit, enlisting more than 340,000 troops, answers directly to the president, and many consider it Putin's answer to the growing FSO power. Today, the estimates suggest that Putin's private army's upkeep costs the Russian taxpayers roughly 200 billion rubles, equal to approximately 2.7 billion US dollars. Still, that's just the outer layer of defense. Even if you manage to get past these 340,000 troops, if you want to get to the man himself, you need to get through his personal guard, the SBP. While I'd never managed to pronounce the Russian version, that's literally the President's Security Service. This agency within the FSO consists of 4 special units and roughly around 2,500 additional personnel that have the sole task of laying their lives so the Russian president can survive. Unit 1. Putin's personal bodyguards. Putin's personal bodyguards are the only unit in this highly secretive agency you can actually see. They are meticulously chosen and trained to become the best personal protection unit in the world. That's not a joke. While America's Secret Service is definitely not to be messed with, they usually aim to incapacitate attackers. The SBP's task is a bit more deadly. They have a green light to eliminate anyone they deem a threat. Naturally, not anyone can qualify for this job. Rumors say that the job purposefully avoids former police officers, as they were actually trained to detain and can hesitate to kill. The troops in this last line of defense are actually highly skilled operational psychologists who can detect threats by looking at a person's face. Moreover, they need to have extremely high stamina and should be able to withstand incredible heat and cold. Shivering or sweating might be considered a sign of weakness. And if there is something the Russian dictator hates more than Ukrainian babies, it's weakness. Moreover, these bodyguards, better known as the Musketeers, must be between 19 and 35 years of age and between 5'7" and 6'2" feet tall. Furthermore, unlike cops, they must stay visibly fit and muscular, as they have to maintain their weight between 75 and 90 kilograms. Finally, to become one of Putin's most trusted guards, you need to know at least 5 foreign languages and have a deeper understanding of politics. After all, you need to know who Putin's international friends are, although right now this last bit is not too hard to remember if you can count to 2. The Musketeers can often be seen beside the president, looking intimidating, holding briefcases. These black leather briefcases are not an accessory or a way to transport essential documents, but are, in fact, top-of-the-line bulletproof shields that can withstand almost any caliber bullet. Defense is not their only specialty, though. They are highly trained combatants, trained to kill without remorse or hesitation. They carry 9mm Gurza pistols, armed with armor-piercing bullets that can penetrate even the toughest body armor from up to 50 meters. Although the weapon is not automatic, it can shoot up to 40 rounds per minute. So if you dream of becoming a Swiss cheese, all you need to do is try to attack Putin. The most impressive gear, however, is their Kevlar umbrellas, which can deflect small caliber weapons when opened. Also, you can use them as umbrellas. Isn't that nice? Unit 2. Secret guards in the crowd. If you are trying to attack the Russian president, however, reaching the last line of defense is not easy. Before you even get close, the second unit will make sure each and every one of 2,500 elite operatives knows of your intentions. The second unit consists of secret guards, who are usually dispersed around the public and observe for signs of unrest. Those highly trained psychologists can determine your intentions by your mimics, walk, and posture. The number of these guards is strictly classified, and no one knows their tactics, numbers, or methods of work. However, they are usually ambiguously clothed and participate in both pro- and anti-governmental events. In some rare cases, you can see these operatives in pictures, as they often follow Putin in all his travels. It's doubtful that the Russian president has such devoted fans that would follow him from Moscow to Vladivostok only to join the event. However, most Western experts claim that such photos were orchestrated by the FSO so that people in Russia know they are constantly being watched. It's a method of public intimidation that ceases any unrest long before it is planned. So, what are this unit's combat capabilities? No one knows. Most likely they are just as highly trained as the bodyguards, but their main task is not to interact with suspects, but to inform them of their movement and coordinate the other units to apprehend them. However, if they see a real threat, they might jump into action or let the snipers handle the problem. Unit 3. Snipers. Did you really believe that Putin would leave his life to chance? Of course not. Wherever Putin goes, there are always elite snipers nesting on building tops and inside apartments. The total number of snipers is unknown, but analysts suggest that the FSO purposefully positions some of these nests in visible spots, so it would deter any attempt on Putin's life long before it comes to shooting. These snipers are not people you'd want to provoke. While they truly have nerves of steel, they are always looking for potential threats. So, if you decide to express your disappointment against the Russian president in any way while he's present, you can be sure you have at least a dozen red dots on your forehead. Still, don't worry, public executions of critics are not widely spread, even in Russia. Of course, this will come after they arrest and beat you. However, a good idea is not to try and pull a water gun at the president, as this might end up a much different way than you imagined. Needless to say, when Putin visits any town, the snipers are scattered across the entire route. People are warned not to look through the windows, and any laundry that might be drying outside should be taken off. This is where the 4th unit comes into play. Unit 4, in charge of securing the perimeter. As it has become evident, much of the SBP efforts focus on prevention. That's entirely the 4th unit's task. That's presumably the largest unit within the SBP, as it has the most critical job. If the other 3 teams have to intervene, this unit has failed, and some people will surely get fired or have an incident with a window in a high floor. The 4th unit is tasked with securing the perimeter and ensuring the president's safety outside the Kremlin. This includes choosing the precise road the president has to take to avoid choke points and places where civil unrest might unfold. When abroad, this job becomes far more complicated, as some criminal gangs will be highly interested in capturing the Russian president on their own turf. When Putin has plans to travel abroad, this unit is sent at least 2 weeks in advance to check routes, create escape plans, determine points of threat, and collaborate with local law enforcement to prevent any such acts against the Russian president. Naturally, the host is just as interested in protecting their guest as the SBP. Moreover, this advanced unit has the task of choosing and securing the hotel where the president and his entourage will stay. Usually, they choose a highly luxurious 5-star or higher hotel for more than 2 weeks. Then, depending on the building's size and security features, they reserve the entire hotel an entire wing, or just several floors. After the reservation is confirmed, they move in and sweep the whole area inside and around the hotel. They are looking for any potential threats, like explosives, spy devices, and anything that might be perceived as a threat. After they're done, they seal the building until the president arrives. Then, just before Putin arrives, they make another quick sweep of the perimeter before the Russian president sets foot in the hotel. In the meantime, at home, the rest of the unit chooses the servants that will go along with Putin on the visit. While their screening methods are highly classified, they rarely pick the same servants twice for security reasons. Only Putin's cook makes an exception to this rule, as he was handpicked by the president and knows precisely how the wannabe dictator loves his porridge. As you can imagine, a paranoid person like Putin could never trust foreign help. So wherever he travels, his servants, cooks, and butlers follow. They take over the hotel's staff functions while Putin's in. However, the most essential piece of the puzzle is the food tasters. The food tasters are usually present at any event where the Russian president has to eat. They have one single task: to examine the food and taste it before it gets served in front of the dear leader. For example, during a visit of Turkish President Erdogan to Russia, Putin famously shared a pistachio ice cream with his Turkish colleague from a seemingly ordinary ice cream booth. This might fool some people, but when you know how seriously both Putin and Erdogan take their security, this was, without a doubt, an SBP agent who gave the two leaders a pre-approved and thoroughly checked ice cream. With all these security measures, Unit 4 takes the heaviest load to protect its president. As you can imagine, Putin's stay abroad isn't cheap. In fact, a couple of nights in another country would often cost in the tens of millions. Still, that's nothing compared with the extreme security measures Putin takes when traveling at home. President's transportation. In all honesty, today, Putin is not quite welcome anywhere in the world. And with internal domestic problems and the president's power at risk, the bunker-dwelling troll that rules over Russia is not quite willing to leave the country. Still, before the war with Ukraine, the Russian president had quite a few visits abroad, and among other duties, the SPB had to secure his flights as well. As you can imagine, Putin isn't really traveling coach. Instead, he prefers to enjoy the utmost luxury in his highly modified Ilyushin Il-96 300PU. While this aviation masterpiece was built in the Soviet era, Putin recently ordered a modification that costed nearly $11 million. This airplane is a genuine Air Force One equivalent, as it operates as a flying command center. It's basically a Kremlin in the sky. Unlike the current US Air Force One, however, Putin's Il-96 has some pretty luxurious features on board. The astounding birchwood furniture, complemented by leather seatings, is only the tip of the iceberg for this flying masterpiece. The interior is intricately decorated with gold, silver, and ivory. Some even suggest the bathrooms have golden fixtures, but that's just a rumor. Can you imagine Putin going anywhere without fitness nearby? As those don't come often at 20,000 feet, Putin ordered one for his plane. God knows Yeltsin didn't order it. Still, let's not forget that this plane is actually a flying command center. And naturally, it has a consistent internet connection, 87 satellite phones, and a video conference room. To top it all off, Putin Force One is equipped with high-end military-grade defensive capabilities. Inside Russia, the SPB doesn't take too many chances either. With internal power clashes over the war that will inevitably be lost, the SPB has to be on the lookout every second the president is on the road. Thankfully, there were some protocols placed well before this scenario came into play. With a private road worth approximately $60 million that takes Putin directly from his home in Novoagayovo to the Kremlin, security is a bit less complicated. After all, it's quite easy to detect threats on the road with only the president's car. On the other hand, whenever Putin has to go outside this road, he is always followed by one truly inspiring motorcade. It is genuinely a military parade on its own. Usually, the president's limousine is escorted by at least 6 armored vans, filled with highly trained Spec Ops units. Armed with AK-47s, Dragunov sniper rifles, anti-tank grenade launchers, portable anti-aircraft missile systems, and probably a nuke or two. The central piece of this spectacle is the presidential limousine. In 2017, while preparing for his full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Putin decided to switch his Mercedes-Benz S600 Guard Pullman with a Russian-made equivalent. The honors went to Aurus, well known as the limo provider for all Russian dictators from the Soviet era. To answer the challenges of the time, Putin invested nearly $200 million in his new highly modified Aurus Senat. The car costs merely $300,000, but all its defensive and offensive features significantly bumped the price. The manufacturer had to follow the FSO's strict guidelines in creating a genuine moving bunker. The so-called car can withstand any caliber bullets, sniper fire, landmines, chemical gas attacks, and small-scale missile attacks. The vehicle is equipped with high-end communications equipment to make it yet another mobile command center. Even when the window's blinds are completely shut, an ultra-modern CCTV system allows security inside to have a 360-degree view of the perimeter. Finally, just to make sure it's as secure as possible, a secret emergency exit is built at the rear of the car. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a small escape helicopter in the trunk as well. Yes, Vladimir Putin's motorcade is truly impressive, but it pales in comparison to the motorcade of the US president. Care to take a look at how Joe Biden travels?